Okay, so yesterday you drew these graphs. This is y equals sine of x, period of 2 pi, amplitude of 1. Looks like an S for sine. That's how I like to remember it. Here, y equals cosine of x, once again, period 2 pi, amplitude 1. In my last class, I said this looks like a valley, and then someone said it looks like a crater, C for crater. S for cosine, C for crater. You can remember it however you wish. But those are our two different shapes. Okay? Now, yesterday we worked on finding the amplitude, period, and starting point based on our equation. Now, the starting point, remember, is not where the graph starts. It is where our frame of reference is going to start. Okay? So we are going to graph these based on the framing method. All right? And this is how we're going to draw our frame. We're going to start with our starting point, and then we're going to draw our frame up and down the amplitude. Okay, remember amplitude is half of the vertical height, so we have to go up and down the amplitude, and then we will draw over the length of the period to draw our frame. Okay, so the starting point is giving us where we start our frame. The sine will start there, but the cosine will not. All right, the starting point is for our frame. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a little handout. And on this handout, it has the steps of like basically yesterday and what we're going to talk about today combined. And then there's 4 empty boxes here that we're going to draw in the shape for sine and cosine. Okay? So if you want to draw this in your notes, okay, you can do that right now as I hand these out. Or you can make some notes on this blue sheet that I give you. Okay. This blue sheet, ignore the back side, only look at the cosine and sine side. The back side isn't supposed to be there. You can take this into your notebook if you really want to. I know some of you have done that in the past. It would be a nice size to do it. Only look at the cosine sine side, ignore the back.
Are we going to use the back at all?
No. I'm going to print new ones for the back. That way you can tape it into your notebook. Okay? All right. So you have 4 frames there. Okay? What I'd like you to do, when we go to graph a sine and cosine, there are 5 critical points in one period. Okay? And so in order to place our 5 critical points, what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you draw a frame, and then I'm going to have you very lightly make a dotted line to split it in half lengthwise, and then split it into quarters vertically. Okay? That way, we have very specific places where we're going to put those 5 critical points. So what I'd like you to do is with those 4 boxes, split it in half lengthwise and then into quarters vertically for all 4 of those boxes, and then we're going to go through what the shape should be for each of those. It would probably also be a good idea to put a point and label it starting point for each of those, so you remember that that is where the starting point is. when you make your frame, you're gonna do this very lightly, okay, so that your graph is what's gonna stand out. This is just kind of a reference.
Can I get a new one? I forgot to start with 4 lines. So you use pen?
Oh my goodness. These pink passes are for at the end of the period, so just remind me to remind
I
that.
need your t-shirt size for the academic excellence award.
Yes, that is what it is. So at the end, I'll give those to those people, and you can go give Miss Ralston your t-shirt size and then come back. Okay? All right. Our sine curve looks like an S. S for sine. Our sine curve does begin at the starting point. So one of your 5 points is at the starting point. Then we're going to go to that first quarter mark and go up to the top of the frame. Then you're going to go to the next quarter mark and put a point in the middle. Then you're going to go to the third quarter mark and put a coordinate on the bottom of your frame. And remember, we always have to end at the same height that we begin. And so the end of your frame will go back to the same height. So we have a nice S. Now, we decided that if there was a negative A, it did what to our graph? It reflected it. And so instead of having an S that goes up first, we're going to have an S that goes down first. So we're still going to start at the starting point, but at the first quarter mark, we're going to go down to the bottom of our frame. Okay? I like to think of it as a positive A, we're going to go up first. Negative A, we're going to go down first. Okay, make sure you have your starting points drawn and labeled here. So you have, when you're doing this without me, you have it to look at. Cosine is not going to start at the starting point. Remember, starting point is for your frame, but the cosine is actually going to start at the corner. Okay, so the cosine is going to begin at the top corner. Then at the first quarter mark, you're going to go in the middle. Halfway, you're going to go down to the bottom. Third quarter mark, you're going to go back to the middle. And then we have to end where we begin. Okay, keep in mind that these are going to keep going. So, you don't need to put this, but it's going to curve back down on either side. So don't make arrows that it's going up. That is not right. Okay. Okay. But pay attention to the different curvature. All right. Draw your curve knowing that it's going to curve back down on either side of those endpoints. Then for negative cosine, where will we begin? The bottom corner. So this is going to look more like a hill. So there's the 4 different shapes that we're going to work. So we really don't need graph paper for this. On your quiz and problem set, I'm just going to give you some blank space where you're going to draw on your frame and you're going to label everything for me. Okay? So if you look at the steps 1 and 2, those refer to what we did yesterday. Okay? Identifying A, B, C, and D. calculating the amplitude period, and figuring out what that starting point is. Okay? So then, numbers 3, 4, and 5, that is what is new to us today. So when we draw our frame, you're going to start with the starting point. That's the whole purpose. Okay? And then you're going to draw your frame based on the amplitude and period, like it says. Now remember that your amplitude refers to the height, but it's only half of the total height. So you're going to draw your amplitude up and down from the starting point. Okay, so if your amplitude is 2, from the starting point you'll go up 2 and down 2, so your total height is 4. Okay, the period is referring to the length, so from the starting point you'll draw the length of that period over. Okay. Then once you have that rectangle drawn, all right, you have those dotted lines that I told you to make. From there, you will know where to put those critical points, and you will label those 5 critical points, whether on the graph or off to the side in a table, but you will label those points. Okay? You will also be asked to state the domain and range of your graph, okay, which we'll practice today. It's probably the least scary calculation that we have to make. Okay, it's pretty simple. So, what I'm going to do is we're going to go through 2 examples, nice and slow, and then I'm going to have you start your homework so that you can get through an example on your own, if not 2 on your own, before you leave here. Okay, and if you have any questions, you can check. Like I said, graph paper, not necessary. If you have it, you can use it, but you don't have to. Okay. All right, so the first equation I'd like you to write down is this. Callie, what is our amplitude? -1.
Is it not -1? One. It's one.
It's 1. And then you make it just the absolute value of the area.
Oh.
So it's 1, Kelly? Okay. But we will make a note that it will be a reflected sine graph. So we will have a sine graph that will go down first instead of up. Okay? All right. The period. Okay. Savannah, how do we calculate it?
C. No, 2 pi over B.
And in this case, what is our B?
1.
Great. So we have period 2 pi. Okay. Coefficient of x is our B value, since it's, 1 is implied, right? All right. Now our starting point. Okay. The x coordinate of our starting point. Andy, how do we figure that out?
C over B.
Okay. And in this case, what is our C value?
-pi over 2.
And what's our B value? Okay, notice how he said -pi over 2. Okay, we have to account for this being opposite because it's bx minus c. All right. So for our starting point, we have c over b, -pi over 2, comma, Amy, what's our y value?
It would be 3.
Good, it would be 3. So that's what we talked about yesterday. That's what you practiced in your homework. Now, I'm gonna draw the frame in green because it's meant to be drawn lightly, okay? We want the graph to stand out overall. So we're gonna go ahead and plot our starting point, negative pi over 2, 3. Okay. Since our amplitude is 1, we will draw up 1 to 4 and down 1 to 2. So this frame is going to stretch from y equals 2 to y equals 4. Then we will draw over the length of the period. Now, if, yes,
Wait, one, four, two.
our amplitude is 1, so if we're beginning at a y value of 3, up 1 would be 4, and down 1 would be 2. So that's like the y value there.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so if we draw the length of the period, and we're beginning with an x value of negative pi over 2, our period is 2 pi. Where is this frame stopping? It has length 2 pi, but we're starting at negative pi over 2. How did you get that? Okay, which is the same thing as taking negative pi over 2 and adding 2 pi. Do you agree? Okay. Wherever we are beginning, we are going to add the period to get where we stop. So since we began at negative pi over 2, Michael added 2 pi to that, we're stopping at 3 pi over 2. Does that make sense? Okay. So now we're going to split our frame in half lengthwise. We already know where that happens. Since we have to label our coordinates, our 5 critical points, it's going to be in our best interest to go ahead and figure out what all of these values are now. That way when we draw our curve, we know where everything is. Okay? So, we know this is negative pi over 2 because that's our starting point. We're going to split our frame in half. And then we'll split those halves in half for our quarters. Now, if we split it in half, we are halfway between negative pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2.
I was gonna say, would it be pi over 2 if you're adding negative pi over 2 and 2 pi? Oh, no, I'm thinking wrong, because you gotta count them.
Yes. Okay. We're on the right track. Okay. So halfway between negative pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. How did you get that, Josh?
I just went I went up 1 pi. So like I went up like it was add negative pi over 2 and then you just add.
Okay. I see what you did. Okay. You added pi. All right. If we're trying to find the middle of somewhere, we can take our endpoints, add them together, and divide by 2. That's how we find the middle, right? We find the average. So we can take 3 pi over 2 and negative pi over 2, add them together to get pi, right? Divided by 2, we have pi over 2. Okay? All right. Here's a nice one. What is halfway between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2?
0.
0. What is halfway between pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2? Pi. If we take pi over 2 and add it to 3 pi over 2, we get 2 pi. Cut it in half, we get pi. Okay, that's how we find averages, right? Okay. The hard work is done. Now we get to just draw our curve and label the points. Okay? Now we have a sine curve, and we've made a note that it has been reflected. Where does the sine curve begin? Okay, in the middle, at the starting point. Since it's reflected, we'll go down to the bottom of our frame, and then back up. I am asking you to label these 5 points, but since we've labeled our frame, it's just a matter of putting the right 2 numbers together. Okay? So we began at our starting point, so that is a point we need to label. We came down here. This is an x coordinate of 0 and a y coordinate of 2.
It would be negative 2. Oh no, sorry.
Here we have an x coordinate of pi over 2, and our height is 3, just like the starting point. Here we have an x coordinate of pi and a y coordinate of 4, because we're at the top of our frame. And then we end at 3 pi over 2, comma 3. Okay? If you think it's too messy to put the coordinates on the graph, you can write them off to the side and that would be fine. Whatever your personal preference is, as long as I have those points to see. Before we talk about domain and range, are there any questions on this frame or graph? All right, let's talk about domain and range. Now, what's true about this curve? It's going to keep going in both directions, right? So, CJ, what's the domain?
Negative,
What's true about all cosine and sine domains? They're going to always be all real numbers, okay? Both sine and cosine go forever in both directions, and so their domains are always going to be negative infinity to positive infinity, okay, for cosine and sine. All right, the range. Maddie, what's our range?
2, 4. 2, 4.
Brackets or parentheses?
Brackets.
Okay, and how did you get the 2 and 4?
Because that's the period. Like, that's what we have on our graph.
Okay, our frame stretches from a y of 2 all the way to a y of 4. That's our range. Okay, so your frame is going to give you your range, which is nice. Okay, there's our graph. What example down? Would you like to see a cosine curve? Thank you for your excitement.
Yeah.
Kaylin's smiling.
Doesn't it like the same thing?
I mean, yes. The process is going to be the same every time. The only thing that's going to change are where you put the 5 critical points based on whether it's sine or cosine. Okay? But drawing the frame will not change. Okay. Our amplitude. Kaylin, what's our amplitude? It would be 2. We do not have a negative a, so no reflection. Courtney, how are we going to calculate the period? 2 pi over our b value is pi. So the period is 2. Okay, I wanted to do this example because you will sometimes see this where the pi's cancel out. Okay, we have period of 2. That's fine. 2 radians, not a problem. Our starting point. Okay, Brett, help me out with C over B.
Pi over 3 over pi.
Pi over 3 over pi.
Is it just 1/3?
It is almost 1/3. what is missing?
What?
Remember, this is bx minus c. So when we identify c, we have to take the opposite. Okay? I did 2 examples like this for a reason. That's going to be easy to forget. Okay? So Annie, our starting point is at negative 1/3, comma, negative 2. Our frame starts at negative 1/3, negative 2. Now we have an amplitude of 2, so I'm going to go ahead and draw my frame just a little bit taller this time. All right, Eleanor, if we are starting at a height of negative 2 and our amplitude is 2, what's going to be the top of our frame?
1/2 or 1.5.
Okay, we're starting at negative 2, right? Ignore this. We're starting
Oh,
at
it's
negative.
-2. Okay, so it'd be 0.
Okay, good. So this has a height of 0, and what about down here?
Down there would be -4.
Good. All right, then we have a period length of 2. If our starting point has an x value of negative 1/3, and we draw this frame of length 2, where is it going to stop?
1 2/3.
Okay, let's make a nice improper fraction.
5/3. Oh, 5/3.
Okay, so we take negative 1/3 where we begin, we add the period 2, so that means our frame stops at 5/3. Okay. So I'll just make a little note to myself that this is negative. Okay, split our frame in half lengthwise. Now we're going to break it into quarters, so half and then those halves in half. Okay, that just makes our values easier to calculate. So, if we split this frame in half, what is halfway between negative 1/3 and 5/3? What'd you say? Okay. If you need to do some chicken scratch off to the side, negative 1/3 plus 5/3 is 4/3, and then we cut that in half to get 2/3. Okay, if you need to do that, that is fine. Halfway between negative 1/3 and 2/3. 1/6. Negative 1/3 plus 2/3 is 1/3. Cut that in half for 1/6. Then if we look halfway between 2/3 and 5/3, we find the average, add them together to get 7/3, cut it in half to get 7/6. Like I said, some of you may need to do some chicken scratch off to the side. There's nothing wrong with that. But once you get those labeled, okay, the hard work is over. Now it's just a matter of drawing your curve. We have a cosine curve that is positive. Where do we begin?
0.
Top corner. All right, so your curve should look like this. It's a matter of labeling our points now. Okay, so this coordinate the x value is negative 1/3, y coordinate 0. This coordinate right here, 1/6, negative 2. This coordinate, 2/3, negative 4. Back up to 7/6, negative 2. And then our last coordinate, 5/3, 0. Now, this one, we didn't have, our radians were integer values instead of values with pi, okay? That won't happen very often, but you will see it in your homework, okay? Sometimes it's easier to keep x's and y's straight because the x's have the pi's, the y's do not, all right? But if you are organized with your labeling, and you're organized with your frame, okay, labeling the points should go pretty smooth for you. All right? Everyone, what is the domain of this graph? Okay? And the range of our graph, Josh?
Negative 4 to 0.
Negative 4 to 0. Okay. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 problems. 6 problems. Before you leave, one of them needs to get done. I don't care if it's 44 or 45, 50, well, I don't care which one it is. But one of them needs to get done before you leave.